Greetings everyone, a warm welcome. Hey, thank you for joining me, you guys. It is the 31st of January today, 2020. We are about to embark on February. This year is a leap year, which is nice. We have another day of February. Anyhow, a lot of astrologers have been pitting this month to be a very busy month. So let's have a look collectively at what is going on around the planet via collective conscious energies and psychic thread and remote viewing per se. Now you may hear a bit of background noise. There is some work going on around me and it's just the way it is. So if distractions play a role in the reading, perhaps that indicates that distractions are abound for February. Let's start with some of the tarot for February for the Earth predictions reading. See what's out there, because it does sound as though it's a pretty big month. Well, that's actually really nice. The King of Cups. He could be a global leader showing compassion. It could be that something is brought to us from the heart capacity. The Fool is new beginnings, new journeys, awareness, awakening. So something brand new taking shape, formulating, often very quick, and sometimes not necessarily caring about previous protocol. Again, we've got more cups, so more heart-oriented. There could be a lot of feelings of the heart, relationships playing out. That's the sisterhood of life. That is friendships. It is people having your back, helping you, supporting you, nurturing you. It's also about connecting with these people that you may not have seen for some time. So there's a possibility going on there. But these cards for now, for February, for 2020 from the tarot deck are actually boding very positively in terms of some sort of heart connection or emotional capacity that is going on and newness of emotions. Now this page is also a very revered card in the deck. He is very young, so this can be about youth, it can be about young people. But he has foundations of moral ethics. So, and he, being a pentacle, he can be quite slow in his awakening or his movements or whatever it is that he is dealing with around the planet. But there's a depth of morality, there's a depth of purpose, there's a depth of newness. So again, and he's sitting on top of this Fool. So it's something about new directions or new awareness or new awakening. We'll see when we get to the Psi cards if there's anything different that comes from it. So when we see the Death card come out, it could, again, it's referencing a new beginning. Since this is the Psi readings, and I quite often reverse the energy of the original meaning of the card, at least I do for this deck, then you could imply that the death with the scythe could mean death of something old. Again, we're talking about new beginnings, death of an old paradigm, death of an old belief system, death of a patriarchal system, death of politics, death of boom. As of tonight, Brexit is making its way into its new foray, and that could well be the Fool and the Death card, and it could be also this Pentacle, this Page of Pentacle, making new steps and directions in terms of finances, and of course England will get its pound back. It won't be dealing in the euro anymore, so its dollar value will have to take time to ascertain where it sits in the global market or the global financial market. So there is definitely something about money that comes up in this month of February as we move into the transition of creating this new life. And the Fool is definitely about thinking of themselves and not caring about anyone else. It's quite a singular journey, and that definitely emulates the British Brexit issue that's going on. It also emulates Meghan and Harry, and he in particular emulates the type of energies of Harry, you know, heading off on his own but taking some time to become grounded and established again, but doing so through his own rules of morality of one way or another. So there's quite a few messages coming here that I think could be referring to some personal messages. We have just had a compassion event happen with Kobe Bryant and that tragic death of him and the 9 other people who were on the helicopter, and so there's been a lot of compassion brought about, especially through America. The feeling in the heart and that coming together and standing strong, and also learning lessons from what Kobe taught and taking that forward with us. There were the loss of his daughter and many other young girls on the crash as well, but those things have already happened, and traditionally these cards don't talk about so much what has happened as opposed to what is coming. So whether or not these cards are also suggesting more events along those lines, or picking up the global feeling with people currently at the moment, because it is very fresh and there is certainly a lot of global compassion and emotion surrounding the planet. So as we move into this card, we have the message. Interestingly, that came out just a couple of minutes ago when I was pre-shuffling the deck. We have the Father card, we have the Tower, this is for February for 2020. We have the Father and the Mother. Never had those two before in a reading together. Something going on there. The Son, the Father, the Son, the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, but the Father, Son, Mother. The Son and Father are, you know, indicative in terms of archetypes. They play a similar role as such. So let's have a look just a little bit more for February. Really, we're looking for one more, I think. It's such a small deck. Oh, well, I'm left with one. Perhaps I'll take that. The Libido. And on the bottom of the deck, the Scales. While I'm pleased that the Destruction card didn't come out. Okay, so message, Father, Tower, Mother, Son, Libido, Scales. The message is coming to us, and it can turn up a global event occurring. It can also be the message of needing to change something, and we've seen plenty of change over here in these tarot cards that arrived. The message can sometimes also indicate water-related activities, because there is a boat or a fishing net with, just pull it in a bit more for you so you can see more clearly. It is a boat and they appear to be fish caught in the net. So this could be even more climate change information or activities. It could be something representing our oceans and the need to take more urgent action. It could be energy in our oceans, such as quakes or undersea volcanoes, or movement of one type. Scientific doomsday clock has just been shifted to 100 minutes to midnight, indicating a closer call with the end times, unless we stop and do something with our own particular human engineered energy on the planet. So that could be tied up with part of the message card as well. When we look at the Father card, we look at someone shooting arrows up into the sky, and they are dressed and ready for physical activity and warring activity. So they are rehearsing their skills in arm-to-arm combat. So this can quite often reference arm-to-arm combat, and it can reference warring. so some sort of war event taking place. He is also pointing to the sky, so this can represent things up in the sky that they are looking at that could be moving or falling from the sky, such as satellites, technology, any form of technology, new meteorites traversing the sky, information about new planets, or information to do with what is directly below him, the sun or the moon or any other planets in our solar system, new stars or information pertaining to them. It can also reference things about planes as well. Anything that's traversing the sky that has a little bit of trouble surrounding it. So the next card is the Tower card, this one here. It doesn't have quite the same meaning as the Tower card in the tarot deck, although you could suggest that perhaps it does. We see a big building there, an old one like a castle, so I think often of places up around through the older inhabited areas of the globe, such as Europe or the Middle East. Now this warring faction has the tenacity to brew up through that part around the Middle East area. We know that given what's been going on at the moment, so whether or not we see any more of that activity, I'm unsure. It can also indicate parts of Europe and sometimes Italy. Sometimes it indicates shaking of houses or flooding. So there may be some severe weather up through those parts of the globe as well that could be indicative of the energies of the Tower. The Tower could also represent the shaking of the foundations of castles, as in the UK monarchy, who seem to have been shaken to the core with the recent Megxit and of course the Andrew pedophilia issues. So there may still be more coming from the UK British family or from monarchy in general around the world. So issues that are being perhaps kept behind closed doors and things that open up or shake their foundations. We come to the Mother card down here. So we think of, goddess energy, female energy, certainly taking shape around the planet, and I think that is happening more. We think of mothers and children, and what could that possibly mean? Because we've got this whole family thing going on here, we also have a tree over here, like a family tree, and we also have more children here. So there's a lot of children referenced in this reading in February. I'm not sure exactly what details that mean, but that mother is holding on to those children quite tightly, and the little one at the back behind her looks very unwell. So whether or not children are affected negatively in some way in February. I also think of Mother Earth, Gaia, when this card comes out. And of course we've got, if you like, Mother Earth and the Sun right next to each other as well. Now this is the maypole, where the children are dancing around the maypole. We look at crops, and crops can somehow be indicated when this card is out and prevalent. So there may be some issue with crops, probably in the northern, well actually no, it might be the southern hemisphere, either losing crops or having an issue with crops one way or another. There might be a loss of them. It might be difficult to grow them. There might be something new information about food or resources or sources. The sun is our energy source of life. So if the sun is in here, we have to try and figure out what is the message coming to us from this energy source. Is it giving us energy? Is it giving us too much energy? So the sun is going through a new solar cycle, which just established in December, I think, or January, and I think it's solar cycle number 27. And with each solar cycle, you will see a different pattern emerging from the sun. We know that we on the Earth have slightly lesser protection against radiation. Our radiation shield is going down a little bit, so there may be indications of that. Also, our magnetic North Pole is moving. So some of these things might all be tied up into these two cards that have positioned themselves. The libido card is very much about exactly as the word suggests, like wild surge of energy, raw, unbridled energy. Now it can come in the form of weather energy, so some of these could be massive weather events that take place, storms that inundate areas, countries, villages, towns, hillsides. We get slips, mud slips, rock slides. You get like water breaking through, like just whoosh, just massive forces of water, like inland tsunamis. You also get compassionate global events that take place when the libido card is out, and that is now making sense a little bit with all this compassion that came from these cards over here, the King of Cups and the Three of Cups. They're cards of compassion, of coming together, of standing up for each other, of holding people in the arms of love and support. So I do think there is going to be a compassionate event somehow in the month of February that creates a global uprising, if you like. We also see animals inferred. So we've had two cards with animals, but the animals on the planet are taking a really big hit at the moment when we're not fully understanding the impacts that the current changes are having on them. So we'll see maybe some unusual or more animal stress on the planet. We know that recently in Australia, through the fires, that they've lost a lot of their indigenous marsupial creatures and insects and birds. So there might be some more information coming about that. Let's hope there are no more losses of life for the Australian wildlife. But this could be a global message anyhow, other areas around the planet. So we have the scales, and the scales card often, in my mind, refers to shaking, because those apples on that tree have been shaken off and they're on the ground. So it can reference quakes, and since it is apple time coming up in our country, whoops, Freudian slip, it is apple time coming up in the southern hemisphere because it's harvest time. This could reference quakes in the southern hemisphere, possibly in my country, or areas around me, which is the South Pacific Islands, as well as my neighbour Australia, although they're not renowned for earthquakes. But it also talks about bringing in balance and needing balance at a greater level. So this is indicating this feeling that everything is out of kilter, out of balance. And that's actually the way I forecast my 2020 predictions. The very beginning of it was, I called it the tipping point year, because there's so much out of balance activity or energy encased or circulating through and around the planet, the people, the cosmos, to be honest. So the other thing with the scales, it references trees. So trees could again be in the referencing for February, and that could be things like fires as well. So wildfires or tree fires or issues with trees. I don't know if the Amazon will pop back up into it. The scales can also reference, as I said, the need for balance. It can also reference very big legal issues. Now again, that could be coming back to such things as Brexit. It could be coming back to some of this, what's going on in the Middle East with the Trump, Palestinian, Israel issues that are going on, and that could also be what's referenced up here in the Father card. So as you see, there's a lot of activity. I think the most ominous card in this deck might very well be the libido card. And I guess then if we bring in that one as well, because we're saying there's immense activity or action coming, and if we're taking this for the word that it says on the card, then it's also talking about that. He is the Grim Reaper. And of course I have kind of avoided mentioning the coronavirus, but if we just perhaps very quickly look into what is going ahead with the coronavirus. There have been lots of speculations and gesticulations. I think I'm making a word up there. There have been lots of speculations about whether or not the coronavirus, I put them back in, was derived through a leak in the laboratory that is just 30 kilometres outside of the main city in Wuhan. Yeah, sort of like a biological hidden laboratory. It probably was in one way or another, whether it escaped on its own or whether it was placed by someone. So this is about the coronavirus. What do we see happening for February? I was going to say not much is happening. Well, much work is being done on it. Yeah, there's no real answer here yet. I think it's still very much an evolving situation. There is much work taking place. I don't think this necessarily looks like a laboratory because, believe me, I've worked in one for 30 years or so, so I'm well used to laboratories and what they look like in terms of even microbiology. But it is the workings of something. It is also a timing card when it comes out, so it talks about time, and this one here is very much a timing card. So there's a message sort of saying that it's in the stars, it's still being made. It's also a bigger issue than we understand. It's part of a cycle that was almost going to happen or be introduced or shape destiny, is what you could say. Yeah, what's the one on the bottom? The home. I'm not sure what that infers either, that it could come to my homeland as such, or maybe New Zealand plays a role in the shaping or the destiny of it somehow. I think one of the scientists who was involved in manufacturing the genome of it in Melbourne was a New Zealander. It could be something along those lines, but at the moment they're saying it's a timing issue and that it is not done, and it actually is still being formed in the heavens, if you like, or the stars. So there's no firm answer yet on the way it's going to go. It could perhaps take any direction. So with that in mind, for now, we will finish.